morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to look at a new Pokemon tool, which is the Pokemon tool to end all Pokemon tools. And you'll see in a minute that's actually very clever wordplay, because I mean that incredibly literally. Now, our translation comes from the lovely Antoine Boulet here, one of our very favourites, and to be honest with you, by now, you should probably expect that. Antoine has been on it with the translations, and we are extremely appreciative. But what does it do? As long as the Pokemon this card is attached to is your active Pokemon tool cards attached to your opponent's active Pokemon, excluding Tool Jammer, have no effect. So when I said it was a Pokemon tool to end all Pokemon tools, I meant it literally turns off all of your opponent's Pokemon tools. Now, the only one it doesn't turn off here is any Tool Jammer your opponent might have, and that is to be expected. Essentially, you can turn off all of their tools, but they can play a Tool Jammer, which will also turn off all of your tools, you know, fair and fair alike, I suppose. You can turn off each other's tools, and that's fine, but you can't have anything other than that. Also, am I the only one that thinks this looks an awful lot like something you would hold a bunch of Nerf bullets in? Nerf have been having little synergy, little advertising with a lot of companies at the moment. I'm just saying this could be an advertisement for Nerf, and I don't think it would look any different. So, is this any good? And the answer is yes, but it's very metagame dependent. There are going to be times where having this tool attached to one of your Pokemon is a game-ending thing. It is going to be the thing that literally wins you the game. It is going to be the thing that gives you a key KO or prevents a key KO and ends up with you winning the game. There are times that it is going to be absolutely huge. There are going to be other matchups, plenty of other matchups, where your opponent either isn't playing any tools or they are, but they're not really all that important, etc. And it ends up being a little bit of a wasted slot. Now, one thing I find very interesting here, this isn't actually the first time we've had a card that does this. Now, as far as I am aware, and correct me in the comment section if I've missed something, but as far as I'm aware, this is the first time we've had a tool that does this. But we've actually had a Pokemon and a Stadium in the recent past that do exactly this. We had the Caracosta from Unified Minds. That has an ability that reads Pokemon tool cards attached to your opponent's Pokemon have no effect. Now, incidentally, Caracosta will turn off your opponent's Tool Jammer. So if you play Caracosta, and as it stands, nobody does, and I mean, I have not seen anybody playing Caracosta in a successful deck. I think literally since it came out in Unified Minds. Sorry, Caracosta. I'm playing through Pokemon White at the moment, and I got to the point yesterday where I had to pick the two fossils, and I wanted to pick the fossil that turns into Caracosta, and then I went, well, hang on a second, I need to look back at Pokemon Black, because I've already completed Pokemon Black literally a decade ago, back in, I think, April 2011 I completed Pokemon Black. And of course, I'd already picked the fossil that turned into Caracosta, so I had to go for the one that turns into Archeops, and I'm a little bit sad about it. But if I've got both copies of the game, I can complete the Pokedex, so kind of got to be done. But anyway, Caracosta will turn off your opponent's Tool Jammer, which will then turn on your tools, something to bear in mind. We also, back in Forbidden Light, had Lysander Labs, which turns off all Pokemon tools, yours and your opponent's. So it would turn off your opponent's Tool Jammer, but it would also turn off all of your Pokemon tools at the same time, which would kind of make it a bit of a draw. But that was in Forbidden Light. It is still legal and expanded, but it has rotated out of standard. And really what we can do here is we can go down a whole bunch of list of Pokemon tools that we've got in the format at the moment, and we can see that actually this is going to have a huge effect on a whole bunch of decks. However, one thing we really need to bear in mind here, this is not just a card for now, this is a card for moving forward. Yes, this will turn off all the Pokemon tools that we currently have at the moment, of course it will. but it will also turn off all Pokemon tools that are released in the future. So anytime we have a Pokemon tool that's released in the future that we look at and go, oh, that looks good, we can make use of that, the answer is going to have to be, well, yes, we can make use of that, but don't forget that Tool Jammer will also turn it off. Now, we will do a little bit of a speed round in a moment, but I think we do probably need to focus in on some of the bigger ones we've got around at the moment. I mean, one of my favourite ones is the extra HP ones. So I'm talking Cape of Toughness, which gives an extra 50 HP to a non-GX basic Pokemon. I'm talking Buff Padding, that gives an extra 50 HP to any Pokemon with a retreat cost of exactly 4. And I'm talking Big Charm, that will give an extra 30 HP to anybody, which of course is very relevant if you don't fit into the categories of the other two. And what I really love about this is this can get a KO. Like, if you do 280 damage to an Arceus, and Alga, and Palkia, they will often try and have a Big Charm on. But if they've got a 280 damage on, and then you just attach Tool Jammer to your active, or move a Pokemon with Tool Jammer into your active, you will instantly KO ADP. You will turn off Big Charm, they will get KO'd, and then you'll get to essentially have the next attack, so to speak. And this is awesome. And it works with all three of those cards in the same way. It's pretty good in that regard. Air Balloon is a pretty big one around at the moment, although we could also say U-Turn Board here. And Air Balloon and U-Turn Board reduce your retreat cost. U-Turn Board by 1, Air Balloon by 2. So by putting a Pokemon in the active with Tool Jammer, you can essentially trap your Pokemon in the active because they're no longer able to retreat. Also, it says Pokemon Tools have no effect, which means if you've got a Pokemon with Tool Jammer in the active and you play a Tool Scrapper to get rid of a U-Turn Board, it will not be bounced into your opponent's hand. That is not how it works. It will just be discarded, and that's brilliant. Metal Goggle sees a lot of play in a bunch of Zacian decks, reduces damage done by 30, that seems pretty big, and you can just turn that off here. So now you're not doing 30 less damage, you're doing the amount of damage you should be. Okay, fine, they might actually be playing Lucario and Melmetal and have used a GX attack, so you are doing 30 less damage, but I suppose at least you're doing 30 less damage and not 60 less damage. I mean, I'm a man that likes to play single energy, single prize fighting Pokemon, so clearly Donphan and the whole memory capsule thing here is going to be a little bit of a pain. Phanpy's got a really nice attack, which lets you do 30 damage for each damage counter on you for 2 energy. So what you often want to do is try and get 2 energy on a Donphan so that you can copy Phanpy using Donphan, and you'll need a memory capsule in order to do so. Sounds like fun, right? Well, if Tool Jammer comes out, you can't copy Phanpy's attack. You can't use Strike Back. And this could be huge, because remember that Donphan's only real attack, I know 3 energy, 90 damage, but no. The only real attack we've got here, 1 energy, 120, plus 20 to each of your bench. So it's not just that Phanpy gives you a better attack, it's a Phanpy stops you hitting all of your bench, which could give away KOs, which let your opponent win the game, which incidentally is a bad thing. This can be huge against Donphan. And okay, Donphan's not at the centre of the metagame now, but you never know. We've got tools that do extra damage. Think Vitality Band does an extra 10 to your opponent's active. Telescopic Sight does an extra 30 damage to benched Vs and GXs if you can hit the bench. And we can honestly pop in Rusted Sword here as well. That is a Pokemon tool that lets Zacian V, and only Zacian V, do an extra 30 damage, which is kind of awesome. And all of those will be turned off using Tool Jammer here. There are so many that you're turning off. Rocky Helmet is being reprinted, does 20 damage or 2 damage counters to you when you attack. Oh no, it doesn't. Even something like Island Challenge Amulet, which lowers your maximum HP by 100 but means you give up one fewer prize if KO'd, that will be turned off here so you can take the right amount of prizes. Karate Belt that reduces the attack cost of a fighting Pokemon by 1 fighting energy if you're behind on prizes. Giant Bomb, which will put 10 damage counters on if you do 180 or more damage. I told you we were going to do a speed round. Consider this the speed round. My point is there are so many tools around at the moment that do see a bunch of play. And I'm not saying that whacking Tool Jammer in your deck is instantly going to give you auto wins against every deck. That's not realistic. It's not going to. But I absolutely am going to tell you that doing a little bit more damage, taking a little bit less damage, stopping your opponent drawing cards or conserving energy or etc. can be the kind of thing that will win you the game. It is, shall we say, pretty gosh darned important. So let's go ahead and give this 4 Wassies, but be safe in the knowledge that actually 4 Wassies could well be a little bit misery. But I'd like to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section, would ya? Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.